groups or organizations, or if he is a lone wolf. That part of the investigation still being looked at. Now, even after Raymond became a suspect, it was still difficult to tie him to the attack at the Abad Center because police tell us there was limited surveillance video. So coming up tonight at 6, I'm going to tell you about the unique approach that detectives took. Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates.
Every school in America should have an armed guardian or resource officer on campus. That message today from State Senator Rick Scott during his visit to Collier County. Scott says he supports the School Guardian Act and wants to see it passed throughout the country. For context here, that law allows staff members who work at schools, but not mainly in the classroom, to carry a gun on campus. Well, Florida adopted the law after the Parkland shooting, and Senator Scott says passing the bill nationwide keeps kids across the country safer.
Make sure that law enforcement is there. Make sure that there's few entrances. Make sure that there's every security. Make sure that the teachers and the students know what to do if there's an active shooter.
Now, the School Guardian Act must first get passed through the Senate. Senator Scott is hoping for bipartisan support. Here in Southwest Florida, the Lee County School Board is discussing the program. We've got their thoughts tonight for you on Fox 4 News at 6. But first, we want to give you a live look from Collier County, where this is our camera at the Bayfront Inn in Naples facing inland. And as we bring in Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls. Katie, it looks gorgeous in that shot and the shot behind you, but we know that you are keeping a close eye on radar.
That's right. Farther inland, that's where those storms are situated. But if you're in Fort Myers, if you're here at Tarpon Lodge, located on beautiful Pine Island, down to Naples, quiet conditions. So basically a rinse and repeat of yesterday. If you're to the west of I-75, if you're closer to the coastline, this is what we're enjoying this evening. But farther inland, that's where those storms are developing, but they are a bit more isolated. As anticipated, fewer storms are expected this afternoon, but where they are setting up shop, heavy downpours and lightning will be our concerns. Tracking this nearly stationary downpour right over Immokalee, right now producing some pretty healthy rainfall right along 29 for those of you heading down toward Harker. Meanwhile, this shower over LaBelle, just like that, has fizzled out here in the last few minutes. And over DeSoto County, monitoring a storm right on the county line, and especially some heavier storms right here over southern Highlands County. That's going to be heading down toward Venus and eventually toward Palmdale. So Palmdale heads up. Glades County are going to be hit once again by those heavy downpours. We'll talk more about where we could see that development heading into tomorrow next.
An update tonight on a crash that impacted traffic along Alico Road near Corkscrew Boulevard this morning. The Lee County Sheriff's Office says an SUV and a dump truck crashed into each other, trapping 2 people and injuring 3 other people. All 5 were taken to the hospital. The Florida Highway Patrol is continuing to investigate what exactly happened here. What will happen to Fort Myers Beach Elementary, which suffered major damage from Hurricane Ian, is still unknown. The Lee County School Board planned to vote today, but the subject was pulled from the agenda. School officials say the board is now working with the town. They're continuing to do that, but additional changes made to the plan now need to be reviewed and negotiated. Of course, this is a story we've been staying on top of for you, and we will continue to do so. Well, tonight, Cape Coral food truck owners say a citywide ordinance that went into effect today is going to push people out of business. Part of those new rules say food trucks can no longer stay in the same location overnight. So Fox 4's Colton Chavez joins us live at Millie's Dominican food truck off of Del Prado. And Colton, the city is saying part of being a mobile food vendor means you have to be mobile.
Yeah, Shari, it says right in the name. We look back at Millie's Dominican Kitchen. They've got wheels, so they're able to go mobile if they can. But here's the difficulty that they've told me about. They say before this ordinance, they actually had a deal with the property owner here where they would rent out this space. So now that the ordinance is passed, so they say they got to pack everything up and they got to get out of this space at the end of each day. Now, this is big problems for co-owner Manuela Guzman and her sister, who say they now actually have to buy a pickup truck so they can move their mobile kitchen at the end of each shift. Now, along with the new vehicle, there are other expenses Manuela tells me about as well, like also having to pay for a storage unit. They say the city of Cape Coral says you cannot, because the city of Cape Coral says you cannot park your food truck on your property. Now, Manuela tells me thankfully they can afford these changes, but she says that may not be the case for other food trucks in the Cape.
You know, we're a small business, granted, but you have smaller businesses that solely depend off their food truck or their food trailer, or so imagine them, how they feel and how overwhelmed they might be by this whole situation.
Manuela says the reality is that some of the food trucks that she sees here in Cape Coral probably won't survive. Now, the city says this is all part of a health and safety operational notes that they want to be able to have for the city of Cape Coral. And, you know, we have someone kind of causing a disturbance right now. But at 6 o'clock, we're going to give you more of this story. But for now, live in Cape Coral, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
Thank you so much. You handled that well. Well, one man says his hurricane cleanup led to an alligator bite on Sanibel. Florida Fish and Wildlife says it happened right near a pond off of Rabbit Road. Officers say he was cleaning up Hurricane Ian debris when he felt some pain. He was treated for minor injuries from the bite, and he is recovering. An alligator trapper caught the gator and later released it. Also, a dolphin rescued today on Isles of Capri in Collier County. Officials tell us FWC contacted NOAA after they found an 18-month-old dolphin with a fishing line wrapped around his tail fin about 2 weeks ago. NOAA decided it was life-threatening, and they calmed him down, brought him in to free him, and he was released today. Some good news for you today. And a heads up if you live in Punta Gorda. Short staffing led to some changes in yard waste collection today. You might have noticed. If you normally have your waste picked up on Tuesday today, this week it will instead be picked up on Thursday. The city just says that short staffing was unplanned, and they do apologize for that inconvenience. Michelle?
Changes are coming to the new AP African American Studies class, which is expanding to more high schools in the fall. This comes after critics say the College Board changed the course because of political controversy. Now the board says it will be making changes that will be determined over the next few months. It says the update will make sure the course best reflects the topic. Rent prices are still increasing, but not as fast as they were. That's the good news out today. But prices are still higher than they were before the pandemic. The new numbers from Realtor.com show nationally the rental market had single-digit growth for the 8th month in a row in March. The median rent is at about $1,700. That's down about $30 from last year's peak, but still about $400 higher than before the pandemic. GM and Samsung announced plans today to make a new electric car battery cell factory in the U.S. They're putting more than $3 billion towards the plan. They're not saying where the factory will be located, but it's expected to begin operating in 2026. Well, we've been telling you about the new tax credits available to help make your home more energy efficient and save on your energy bill. The government is now trying to make it easier to know what you qualify for and how to take advantage of the money that's available. It's all broken down on the website energy.gov/save that just launched.
Insulation pays back very quickly, especially if you can get a tax credit to help pay for that. A new heat pump. Heat pumps can significantly reduce the cost of home heating and cooling. A new hot water heater. Hot water heaters are very expensive to operate. If you can get a more efficient one, that'll reduce the cost of hot water heating.
The tax credits are available to everyone. Rebates are expected to come in July and will only be available for lower and middle income families. States will be responsible for rolling out the rebates.
And our goal is the winter heating season. We get ahead of that, and these states are starting to support consumers with swapping out their air conditioning and heating systems, their water heating systems, the weatherization of their home.
The cost of winter heating is now at the highest level in more than 10 years, according to a recent report from the National Energy Assistant Directors Association. Many people think brands are raising prices more than necessary right now to make money, where efforts to hold companies accountable stand.
And still ahead here in Fox 4 News at 5, hundreds of drag queens gathered at the state capitol today. Why they say they will not be silenced. That's next right here after the break.
Manufacturing giant 3M announced a second round of layoffs today. It plans to cut 6,000 jobs worldwide, and that's on top of the 2,500 positions cut back in January. The company says supply chain problems have eased, so they don't need as much staff. Nestle, the company behind brands like Kit Kat and Nescafé, says it's raised prices nearly 10% so far this year. The company says the increases are to offset a significant rise in cost. Today, it reported sales revenue up more than 5%.
Consumers are accusing companies of using high inflation as an excuse to hike their prices, and they want them to be held accountable. Federal data shows corporate profits surged last year while inflation squeezed household budgets. Some economists blame this on greedflation, the idea that companies are price gouging customers to increase their bottom lines.
We've seen several retailers and energy companies reporting record profits at a time where inflation and price rises are at record highs. And consumers absolutely hate to see this. You're making more money when you're charging me more.
When research firm Attest asked people about greedflation, 80% said they believe brands are raising prices more than necessary to make money. The majority also said they're willing to ditch those brands because of it. The biggest culprits, according to consumers, are food and beverage companies.
So we see American consumers walking away from brand loyalty, their favorite brands, trusted brands, premium brands, because of this at a rate that is unforeseen in the history of brands and consumer marketing all time.
More than half of those surveyed want federal regulators to do more to address this. Democratic lawmakers have introduced bills that target price gouging, but none have passed.
Giving you a live look now from our camera at the Luminary Hotel overlooking the Caloosahatchee in downtown Fort Myers. And as we bring in Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls. Katie, depending on where you are in Southwest Florida, you might be seeing something a little different.
That's right. But for the most part, I mean, look at this. This is beautiful. Great weather to get outside for sure across Charlotte, Lee into Collier counties. But further inland, that's where the different story is setting up. Now, yesterday, those storms were pretty widespread and really affecting our friends in Glades and across Hendry. This evening, those storms are a bit more isolated, meaning they're a bit more hit and miss. So let's zoom in on where those downpours are affecting some of our neighbors right here in Immokalee. So northern Collier County, notice, and this storm has barely moved here in the last hour. That means we could see a quick 1 to 2 inches of rain accumulate. So heads up for the potential for some ponding on the roads right along 29 heading down toward Harker. Meanwhile, there's that shower that fizzled out over LaBelle. But as we look back towards southern highlands right over Venus, a very heavy thunderstorm there, a strong thunderstorm producing heavy downpours, frequent lightning, gusty winds, and all of this is pushing into Glades. So Palmdale especially heading down toward Moorhaven, heads up. Very heavy rainfall heading your direction with that storm working its way toward the south and east. Helping you plan out your evening, for most of us, other than those few storms that we are tracking, we are expecting a partly cloudy sky this evening. Temperatures dropping into the upper 70s at 8 and 9 o'clock, mid 70s by 10 to 11. So with our high resolution model that we update for you every hour, this really pinpoints right here at 7 p.m. where we can expect those storms to possibly be affecting you. And again, mainly in our interior communities from Glades heading down toward Hendry, but notice where we are dry across Collier, Lee, Charlotte into Sarasota counties. Right here around 8:30, that same opportunity, but as soon as that sun sets, those storms lose their energy and they die out. So by 11 o'clock, things are fairly quiet on radar. Overnight, we can expect partly cloudy, becoming mostly clear by tomorrow morning. So lots of sunshine on tap for the first half of your Wednesday. It's going to be another muggy start, similar to this morning, right around 70 degrees for that morning temperature. Then for the afternoon, basically a repeat of today. The best chance for those isolated downpours will be farther inland to the east of I-75, while our coastline stays on the dry side. Again, that's because in the afternoon, we'll start to see that southwesterly wind pick up and basically force all of that energy farther inland. So if you are in Glades or Hendry yet again tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, please stay weather aware. is where we have the greatest threat for some gusty winds this evening, and same story heading into tomorrow as well. So we will be monitoring that potential very closely. But as of right now, it looks like once again our inland communities dealing with the best chance for those storms tomorrow afternoon. Temperatures, they'll continue to stay hot. We'll head toward 89 degrees, and of course with that humidity feeling even hotter. And then notice the potential for those scattered storms continuing into the weekend. Unfortunately, a storm system on Sunday could wash out some plans, so heads up there, and then we'll clear things out by Monday morning.
These beautiful violins date back to World War II. For decades, they were forgotten and laid silent. But today, in a victory of the human spirit over evil, they are once again touching hearts.
They say wherever there is music, there is hope. At this concert in a Chicago area synagogue, the violins are the ultimate symbols of that hope. They once belonged to Jewish musicians before and during the Holocaust.
So this violin here played or was in Dachau, in a concentration camp.
Yeah. Third-generation violin maker Avshalom Weinstein is the co-founder of the Violins of Hope project.
So you can see here the Star of David. This is mother of pearl black powder with glue.
Weinstein and his father have spent the last 20 years collecting and repairing Holocaust-era violins. Many were played inside concentration camps where prisoners were often forced to entertain Nazis.
Playing the music helped them survive, helped them keep sane, helped others who heard it sometimes keep sane.
Others were thrown out from trains bound for Auschwitz and other death camps.
It's amazing. I mean, there is so many different stories. And
for Weinstein, it's personal. His grandparents lost hundreds of family members to the Holocaust. Still, after the war, his grandfather in Israel started acquiring what no one wanted, violins made in Germany.
He fought and believed that the instruments, they didn't harm.
Today, the collection has grown to over 100 string instruments.
6 of them are displayed right here in suburban Chicago at the North Shore Congregation Israel in Glencoe, Illinois, with heart-wrenching information about their origin stories.
Among the 700 concert goers are many families with their own Holocaust survival stories.
Both my parents were in Auschwitz.
Anita Sukier, who brought along her granddaughter, says the packed event fills her with hope.
I am so grateful that I am alive and that I can be part of the Jewish community and see that it's thriving and it's being accepted, even in an area like this that used to be forbidden to Jews. So it's wonderful.
The concert features 16 violins from Weinstein's collection. 22-year-old violinist Julian Rhee played one of them at a private reception ahead of the performance. He says he's beyond honored to be a part of the Holocaust Remembrance Project.
To bring a very visceral feeling to something that we need to remember and that needs to stay very powerfully inside all of us, I think it's incredible. And to use, it's kind of an honor that what I'm doing as a violinist can play a role in that.
Over the past 20 years, the violins have traveled the globe for exhibitions and performances on the world's biggest stages. But their stop here in Chicagoland is the most ambitious so far. For the next 6 months, 70 instruments will be showcased in more than 100 events across Illinois, including in schools and communities with very few Jewish people.
One of the most heartwarming parts of this initiative is how many people across a diverse spectrum of individuals and organizations and groups have raised their hand to really talk about tolerance and acceptance and kindness and hope.
With each concert, the memories and individualities of the 6 million Jewish people who perished during World War II come back to life. And in the audience, people can take comfort in the powerful knowledge that harmony, humanity, and hope prevailed. Ben Chamiso, Scripps News, Glencoe, Illinois.
As more families look at long-term care options, Medicaid may not cover everything you'd think. The impact some people in assisted living facilities are seeing, with some even getting evicted.
Very interesting story coming up for you on Fox 4 News at 5. Calls for the Lee County School District to join a national social media lawsuit. So coming up, the district's response to a lawyer's plea for accountability. Katie?
And today, another warm day in the mid to upper 80s, but overall pretty seasonable. Records in the low 90s, safe for now. Coming up, we'll take a look at when we can expect our next cold front and big chance for rain over the weekend.
Hundreds of drag queens and LGBTQ plus allies dressed in red, protesting a slate of legislation at the state capitol they say is erasing their community.
Live from Southwest Florida, you're watching Fox 4 News at 5.
Tonight, a law firm wants the Lee County School District to help them sue social media companies for their alleged negative impact on children. That firm explaining to the board that these companies could be pushed to fund resources for mental health instead of using taxpayer dollars. So let's get right to Fox 4 Weekend anchor Elise Chingari. And Elise, you have those details on just what they're discussing.
Exactly, Shari. So a lot of us are on our cell phones all the time, and same with kids. So that was the topic of discussion today, as this California-based law group is now traveling around the country to speak to different school districts, and today that was Lee County. Shari, they talked about the harm of social media on youth, how school boards could potentially sue social media companies, saying social media companies have immunity, Section 230, to prevent litigation against them. Now, the law firm Front's Law Group also said social media feeds off of addiction, and described how people can push for laws to protect children. The lawyer who presented explained what was needed to challenge 4 or 5 of the biggest companies in the world.
For us to show the nationwide impact that these companies are having, we need school districts across the country to show the harm. And it's not just a couple school districts in California or a couple other school districts, that we're trying to show that this is a nationwide harm. And that's where every district's involvement who can be involved is important, because you all play a role to share the story of what your campuses are experiencing.
So, Shari, a question tonight from board members. Will this have a financial burden on the district to proceed with this type of lawsuit? And the law firm said no. So members then responded saying if there's no financial risk, they don't see why they can't go forward. They also said they would need some help from parents. So many of you to come forward to say how your kids, your teenagers are on their cell phones a lot. Tonight, the board said it will engage in further discussion on that matter. If something comes up, of course, Fox 4, well, we'll let you know. Back to you, Shari.
Elise, thank you so much. All right, taking a look across our state this evening, about 200 drag queens and LGBTQ plus advocates flooded Tallahassee streets this afternoon. They marched to the Capitol protesting a slate of legislation they consider hateful and transphobic. Take a listen. Many feel the state legislator is trying to censor their livelihood and their lives. The legislation they fear includes bills limiting public bathrooms to biological sex, bans on gender dysphoria treatments for minors, and a policy already headed to Governor Ron DeSantis threatening fines and jail time to those admitting kids to generally defined, quote, adult live performances, which many here see as an attempt to ban drag shows.
We won't be erased. We understand that the laws have been passed, but we're going to let them know that we're not going to take it laying down.
All 3 of the bills are likely to get the governor's signature this session, so then making them officially law. LGBTQ plus advocates tell us it's likely we'll see legal challenges if the governor signs some of those bills.
President Biden officially announced today that he'll be running for a second term in office. It comes on the 4-year anniversary of when he declared his White House run back in 2019. If Biden is reelected, that would make him 86 years old by the end of his second term. Age is something he addressed in his announcement, assuring that he was physically and mentally able to serve as president again.
I think it's important to point out that our societal expectations or stereotypes about aging tend to exaggerate the negative aspects of aging, but underestimate the positive.
She says that includes things like more knowledge from life experiences and solidifying skills. Meanwhile, there's some first in the race for the Republican nomination. Donald Trump is the first criminally indicted former president looking to be reelected. And Nikki Haley is the most politically accomplished woman to ever run as a Republican. Former Vice President Mike Pence and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis are among those also expected to announce presidential bids. Jury selection began today for another trial against Trump. This case is over a claim from former Elle magazine advice columnist E. Jean Carroll. She says Trump raped her nearly 30 years ago in a department store dressing room. Trump denies those claims. Jurors in this trial will have their identities protected, which court experts say is unusual for a case like this.
consider you have jury duty today in the Southern District in New York, and you walk in and you realize this is the case that you might be sitting for. And, that could give you some apprehension about even, feeling like you could serve just out of fear of the publicity and everything else.
This was the scene outside the courthouse today. The trial is happening in a federal civil court, which means no matter the outcome, Trump will not face jail time. He is also not required to be in court. Bird strikes are on the rise across the U.S. with another incident over the weekend. James Packard shows us the technology the FAA is considering to help prevent more of these incidents.
The most alarming sound ever.
Terrifying moments over Columbus, Ohio.
I'm like, there's no way. We literally just got married 48 hours ago, and this can't be like real life.
Passengers on American Airlines Flight 1958 experiencing the heart-stopping jolt of a routine flight to Phoenix, quickly becoming life-altering.
I think at that moment, everybody panicked and started praying, and people were holding hands and stuff.
The crew, following their training, circling back to land at Columbus Airport, in the air only about 25 minutes. The damage to the plane clear on the ground. Airstrikes aren't uncommon. In fact, the FAA is researching UV lights to potentially give a visual warning to birds to get out of the way of planes. But the strikes are increasing in frequency. Since 2000, overall bird strikes in the U.S. doubled before the coronavirus tanked air travel. But bird populations have also grown, so have the number of planes in the air. Still, looking at strikes per 100,000 plane movements, the numbers are still climbing. Interestingly, bird strikes that cause damage have largely happened at the same rate over the last 2 decades. This weekend's incident is a good example of commercial airliners' resilience to bird strikes and flight crews' ability to deal with them. Still, the result can be dangerous, and as these passengers can attest, it's certainly terrifying.
It's more probably scary now, knowing that, oh my gosh, it could have been a lot worse.
When we experience a mental health crisis or somebody that we know does, when you start looking for help, that's when it really hits home.
Psychiatric nurses are one group who could help fill the gap, but there aren't enough of them. The new efforts to boost their numbers. As 73 million baby boomers start to think about their options for long-term care, the Medicaid safety net is losing its power to help them. Nursing homes must accept Medicaid recipients, but assisted living facilities are not required to. Nursing homes, which offer 24-hour nursing care and help with everyday activities such as eating or walking, are in most cases fully covered by Medicaid. Assisted living facilities generally offer services to help people who can live on their own. But Medicaid doesn't necessarily pay for room and board, only the services offered by the facility. A recent investigation by the Washington Post found at least 50 people in Wisconsin have been evicted from assisted living facilities since fall 2022 for Medicaid-related reasons.
I've been doing this work for a long time, and folks who run facilities, in justifying what they're doing, will always say we don't get paid enough, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to evict people, we have to short staff, and that's unfair to residents.
Eric Carlson is one of the nation's leading consumer experts when it comes to nursing homes and assisted living facilities. He says an outdated pay scale from Medicaid and very little government oversight have a big impact on the residents of more than 28,000 assisted living facilities across the country.
The money is sent to the states, which passes it on to the facilities, and there are, slight exaggeration here, but almost no standards from the federal government and no oversight by the federal government, and that needs to change.
Carlson says if you or a loved one receives an eviction notice from one of these facilities, the first thing to do is take a breath. Many states have some form of appeals process. In some instances, experts say you can have a doctor evaluate the patient to determine if assisted living is still a viable option. We hear a lot about IVF, but an increasing number of couples are turning to an alternative method.
These are our kids, and it's just a little bit different route to get there.
The success they and others are having with embryo donation.
And coming up on Fox 4 News at 6, the Lee County School Board is trying to flesh out some of the language before voting on the Guardian program. That law allows staff members who work at schools but not mainly in the classroom to carry a gun on campus. So tonight at 6:30, our Brianna Brownlee has more on what concerns are coming directly from the board. Katie?
Quiet conditions for many of us here in Southwest Florida, but that is not the case with this strong thunderstorm now moving into Glades County. We're pinpointing where this is headed and when more could be developing tomorrow and impact your plans next.
A staggering 21% of Americans are dealing with mental health disorders in this country. It's why some communities and healthcare groups are looking to psychiatric nurses to help fill the gaps.
Do you want to use the 3 ml syringe? Because you'll pull up 1 ml, right, for the heparin?
Most nurses will tell you they are drawn into their profession as a calling.
Good.
One that comes with years of hard work, training, and schooling.
Yeah.
But as the country has emerged from the pandemic, there is a growing need for a certain kind of nurse, one that deals specifically with the mental health crisis our nation is facing. They are psychiatric nurse practitioners, and they're in short supply.
It's a very dire situation.
For the last 6 years, Carmen Patillo has served as the dean of Yale School of Nursing. They've seen an increased need for mental health nurses.
We're seeing greater use of psych mental health nurse practitioners.
Psychiatric nurses provide mental health care to patients, often filling the gaps when someone can't find a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Psychiatric nurses can diagnose and even treat things like anxiety, depression, or eating disorders. There are an estimated 37,000 psychiatric nurses in the U.S. Barely enough, say those who see the needs these nurses are addressing.
When we experience a mental health crisis or somebody that we know does, when you start looking for help, that's when it really hits home.
Chizimiza Akoli serves as the president of the Psychiatric Nurses Association. He says to attract more psychiatric nurses to the field, states need to consider expanding loan forgiveness programs. Colorado recently announced they would be offering $14,000 sign-on bonuses for mental health nurses at state hospitals.
So this becomes an important opportunity with nurses being the largest workforce to be able to step in and meet some of these needs and shortages.
These impacts are often disproportionate depending on where someone lives. 157 million Americans live in areas where there is a shortage of mental health care professionals. A staggering 80% of rural counties have no practicing psychiatrists.
I feel for those individuals that live in rural areas where there is what we call mental health or health deserts. I mean, you have no one, and you have to drive miles, sometimes an hour to 2 hours to see a provider.
Back at Yale, they have expanded their psychiatric nurse training to include an online degree program, targeting nurses already working in smaller rural communities nationwide and giving them a Yale degree without having to travel.
That we were going to figure out a way that we could provide the same quality program that we offer on the ground into wherever that student is working. Maybe we were listening for respiratory.
The hope is to get more psychiatric nurses trained and deployed to communities nationwide at a time when they are desperately needed. Chris Conti, Scripps News.
And welcome back to the Fox 4 Weather Center. I'm Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Wolz. Beautiful conditions for those of you heading out this evening. For the vast majority of us from Charlotte County to Lee and Collier, not worried about any storms affecting us, at least for now. Live look at crystal clear conditions from the Luminary Hotel in downtown Fort Myers, where temperatures are still on the warm side. We're at 86 degrees. Dew point, measure of moisture in the air, still sticky. And because of that, it's causing it to feel hotter, more like 89. So the higher the dew point goes, the more of a heat index that we tend to feel. Winds right now are out of the west around 16 miles per hour. And that's why the storms that we do have on radar are farther inland once again. So officially today we started off at 70 this morning, above average, and those highs were actually spot on for this time of year. 87 degrees this afternoon. So again, with that westerly wind, conditions along the coast are quiet, but farther inland, if you live toward Lake Okeechobee, that's where we are dealing with those big downpours again on radar for the second straight day. Very strong storms moving through Glades County. So Palmdale seeing some very heavy rainfall picking up here right along 27. Frequent clouds, ground lightning as well. Improvements, though, up toward Venus. You'll be out of it likely within the next 15 to 20 minutes. But all of this will be drifting down toward Moorhaven, possibly even Clewiston, if these storms hold themselves together, because notice it is more of a drift off toward the south and east. Also, Lakeport, it's already raining right here over you, but you will be seeing that pick up here in intensity in short order. Also, we have the frequent lightning and gusts possible up to 40 miles per hour. For now, this thunderstorm is below severe criteria, but we are monitoring it closely. For the rest of us, quiet conditions, lots of sunshine giving way to partly cloudy skies by 8 o'clock. So your temperatures staying in the 80s, and after sunset will finally drop into the 70s. But overall tomorrow morning, another muggy start. So right here, hour by hour, we'll pick up your forecast at 7 p.m. Best chance for those storms, again, farther inland, closer to Lake Okeechobee. Same story toward 8 o'clock, then sunsets right around 8, and thereafter we'll really see those storms diminish in intensity dramatically. Remember, these are driven by the heating of the day, so once the sun goes down, a lot of times those storms do as well. So that's going to be the case tonight. Quiet conditions for Fox 4 News at 10 and 11. Of course, I'll be updating your forecast for you then. Tomorrow morning, lots of sunshine to kick things off, and we're expecting another beautiful day, especially along the coastline. But with those winds picking up out of the southwest again tomorrow afternoon, you guessed it, it will mainly be in our interior communities where we track those downpours. Same spots getting hit today. That's where we'll get hit again tomorrow. Glades into Hendry, be on alert. This time tomorrow, I suspect we're going to be tracking those storms yet again. And some of those storms, as we've seen, can pack a punch, producing gusty winds as well as heavy rain and frequent lightning. So we'll be monitoring that potential closely. Temperatures will stay quite hot indeed, just shy of 90 for tomorrow afternoon, and looking ahead to the weekend. Does look like we'll see the chance for scattered showers and storms both Saturday and Sunday as a cold front moves through.
This is Infertility Awareness Week. It affects 1 in 6 people worldwide. Elizabeth Ruiz shows us what could be a less expensive option you may not have considered.
When talking about infertility, you've likely heard of intrauterine insemination, IUI, or in vitro fertilization, IVF. But there's another option out there, and I'm about to meet a family that has had 3 kids through that process.
Okay, so Eleanor, can you find one of these?
Embryo donation is how these 3 kids came to be. Kirsten and Joshua Blair are the parents of Eleanor, Clive, and Haddon. Kirsten was pregnant with all of them, but their DNA is different from Kirsten and Joshua because they were donated embryos, meaning the egg and sperm that formed each child came from a different couple.
We knew from the time we got married that we wanted to have kids. About 2 months after we got married, I basically went into premature menopause, which was very shocking, and was told that I would not be able to have my own kids.
Embryo donation is an option available to people facing infertility. The Blairs got their embryos through an organization called Snowflake's Embryo Adoption. Vice President Kimberly Tyson says the embryos came from couples who have participated in vitro fertilization.
Oftentimes, more embryos are created than that family ends up using for themselves, and any remaining embryos are frozen.
According to Katie Cameron, an infertility specialist at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, there are several options couples have for remaining frozen embryos,
including embryo donation to another individual or couple who is growing their family. There is also the option to donate those embryos to research or to just advise the clinic that they would like those embryos to be thawed and discarded and not used for any future purposes.
And we hope that they'll make the disposition choice to donate them to another couple who will then give them an opportunity to be born.
That reason is why Kirsten says she and her husband ultimately decided to go the embryo donation route.
And I know people often don't think of frozen embryos as kids, but we really did believe like this is its own unique life, and it's kind of frozen in limbo right now. And we were told at the time that there were about 500,000 frozen embryos in the U.S. And their parents didn't really know what to do.
Kimberly says that number is now up to 1 million.
I do a lot of work in communicating with fertility clinics to encourage them to tell their patients about this as an option.
Numbers from an embryo donation national study found from 2004 to 2019, there were 21,000 frozen donated embryo transfers in the U.S., resulting in nearly 8,500 live births. While the number of people choosing embryo donation has been increasing, Katie says it's still quite rare compared to other infertility methods.
I think that, when people pursue fertility treatment, Oftentimes, one or the other or both members of the couple are pursuing treatment with the intention to use their own biologic gametes.
Gametes are eggs and sperm.
Reasons that somebody would ultimately end up pursuing embryo donation, for instance, if it turned out that both members of a heterosexual couple had absolute infertility and were not able to contribute genetic information, or for instance, if a woman ultimately ended up needing donor egg and was unpartnered or was otherwise going to use a sperm donor, then she might elect a donor embryo that's already created.
When donating embryos, both Katie and Kimberly say it involves medical screening, psychological counseling, and informed consent, so the transfer of rights is done in a way that everyone involved is comfortable with the process.
When somebody pursues embryo donation, then they are waiving their future rights to those embryos.
In terms of money, Kimberly says the cost including the transfer is about $16,000, while in vitro fertilization can be anywhere between $15,000 to $30,000. Kirsten and Joshua say no fertility treatment is super affordable, but for them, it was worth it.
If it was going to be a hard process anyway, we really did want to give a chance at life for embryos that already existed.
These are our kids, and it's just a little bit different route to get there.
Elizabeth Ruiz, Scripps News, Colorado Springs.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. I'm Michelle London. Fox 4 News at 6 is next.
This was a very challenging case.
Now we're finding out part of the challenge that officers had to overcome. They eventually arrested the man accused of attacking a Chabad center in Cape Coral and are letting us know about a wild conspiracy theory the suspect had about marijuana.
And food trucks in Cape Coral have a long list of new rules they must follow. Now one of those trucks is using it as a chance to do some good for our community. We'll show you how they're doing just that. And one of Florida's senators was in Collier County for a big announcement today, all intended to make students feel safer in schools.
But will it be enough? The county school board members are reviewing the details of that plan now as we have a preview.
Live from Southwest Florida, you're watching Fox 4 News at 6.
Conspiracy theories involving religion leading to an attack on a place of worship. Tonight, new details on that hate crime arrest and the attack of the Cape Coral Chabad Jewish Center. Thank you for joining us for Fox 4 News at 6. I'm Nadine Yanis.
I'm Chris Earl. New tonight, the Cape Coral man charged in that hate crime was trespassed at another place of worship just days later.
Now, last month, Cape police say Marin Raymond targeted the Cape Coral Chabad Center because he says he worked for the CIA.
And not only that, he claims that his attack was spurred on by a conspiracy theory. Fox 4 Investigates Ryan Kruger tells us this had to do with Jewish people and marijuana. Ryan.
Yeah, 51-year-old Marin Mark Raymond told Cape Coral police officers he believed that Jewish people were part of a conspiracy with the U.S. government. That is where the whole investigation started, but it took several weeks, along with a unique approach by detectives, to arrest him for attacking the Cape Coral Jewish Center as Saturday services were ending early last month.
He's just picking up the stones and just throwing it out the door.
6 days after the man Cape Coral police say attacked the Chabad Jewish Center on Cape Coral Parkway, police say they found him at another local place of worship. At the Abiding Love Lutheran Church, police say 51-year-old Marin Mark Raymond was trespassing. According to a newly obtained police report, Raymond claimed to work for the CIA and was pro-medical marijuana. He also claimed Jewish people were conspiring with the government to, quote, keep medical marijuana down. That's what police say first put Raymond on their radar.
This was a very challenging case because, unlike other cases, the video evidence that we have was not supreme, and it really required a lot of boots on the ground.
As investigators looked into Raymond further, they say he lived with his mom in South Cape Coral and that she drove a gray Ford Edge similar to the vehicle witnesses at the Chabad Jewish Center described as the suspect's getaway car. Detectives pulled neighbors' doorbell camera footage showing Raymond driving home just minutes after the attack.
People are relieved and know that this person is not going to do any more harm to us.
And Cape Coral police say they have asked the FBI to look into Raymond to find out if he is connected to any other white supremacist organizations or groups, or if he is a lone wolf. All of that is still under investigation. Now, we're going to expand this reporting to look at potential changes in law that supporters say could help stop Florida's growing anti-Semitism trend. All of that when my series of reports on the state of hate begins tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. For now, Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates.
All right, Ryan, we will watch out for that story tomorrow. In the meantime, we're watching out for your weather on this Tuesday night as you're getting a live look over the Caloosahatchee River and barely a cloud in sight. It was actually not too unbearable today, Chris.
Now, smooth skies you've got here, but again, not everybody is in the clear. We saw this yesterday, and that was the big theme for this Tuesday. Watching out for some of those storms as Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls joins us.
That's right. The same spots getting hit yesterday, same spots this evening, and they'll be the same spots again tomorrow. So Glades and Hendry, that's where we have the crosshairs over the next several days. And that's because of our wind pattern, basically. With that flow out of the west, it's basically shoving all of that energy farther inland. So our coastline continues to stay on the dry side, but farther inland, very intense downpours right here, stretching from Lakeport right along 78, Palmdale, dealing with very heavy rain, but Palmdale does look like you'll be out of it here sooner rather than later. Venus, you are almost completely clear of this thunderstorm, but all of this is heading off toward the south and east. So Moorhaven, Clewiston, heads up. All of that will be affecting you as well. For the rest of us, though, quiet conditions expected, sunshine, then partly cloudy for those of you heading out this evening. And after sunset, those storms will be dying down in quick order. So take a look at this right here at 8 o'clock, inland storms, and then by 10 o'clock, they're done. Coming up, we'll take a look, though, at where more will be developing tomorrow, and we'll also take a sneak peek ahead to an active weather weekend.
All right, Katie, we'll see you then. Also tonight, new video showing how Lee County deputies tracked down a DUI suspect who then ran off after a crash. Take a look. Deputies say all of this happened off Buckingham Road after a truck flipped over, hitting an electrical pole. They say the driver, though, was not on scene when they arrived, so deputies then released their canines to track down that suspect who refused to come out of hiding. Well, deputies say their dogs eventually caught up to that suspect you see here, Brandon Williams, who they say then tried to smother and kill the dog. Investigators say his blood alcohol level was above the legal limit. He is now in jail facing multiple charges, including DUI and leaving the scene of a crash.
Also, the Lee County Sheriff's Office says a doctor is now in jail for beating a woman at his North Fort Myers home.
Deputies say Dr. Aaron Wall is facing battery and false imprisonment charges. Wall is accused of throwing a woman to the ground and pulling her out of her car and then throwing her onto the driveway. This according to an LCSO arrest report. That same report states Wall pushed the victim multiple times while commanding her to give him her passcode to a device.
Now, according to that arrest report, they say that the victim tried to leave the home multiple times, but that he physically forced her to stay in the home. She told deputies Wall eventually apologized and then tried to take care of her injuries before they arrived on scene, but he is now facing 2 felony charges, as you see here.
A big decision gets taken off the Lee County School Board meeting agenda for tonight. The district says it needs more time before deciding and voting on the future of Fort Myers Beach Elementary. The district sent us an update earlier on this Tuesday saying a deal between Fort Myers Beach, the school board, got revised recently, and before an official vote can happen, more review is needed. The Lee County School District says it will look at the information and revisit the future of Fort Myers Beach Elementary when it is ready. Starting today in Cape Coral, food truck owners have a long list of new codes and protocols to follow. As Cape leaders say, the new codes are aimed to coordinate and also wrangle in those trucks as much as possible.
Yeah, so take a look at this. Among the new changes for food truck operators are rules that now prevent them from placing any kind of furniture for customers to sit on, like picnic tables, as well as new rules that they must be fully mobile by the end of the day and are regulating approved parking here.
And despite the extensive list of new rules, one food truck is also hoping to offer some positivity throughout Cape Coral.
Yeah, way to find the silver lining through all of this. That food truck actually spoke with Fox 4's Colton Chavez, and he joins us live with more details from the food truck's owner tonight. Colton.
Well, Nadine, this ordinance is just changing the landscape completely. Food truck owners like this one even telling me they can't even guarantee that they'll be back to the same spot every day because they have to leave every night. And as you mentioned, Nadine, things like these tables, well, they now have to go as well. But for Millie's Dominican Kitchen, they're knocking on wood, hoping they can use these tables to give back to the community.
My sister and I, we did all the legwork and we built this. And now we have to move it.
Manuela Guzman says the road for Cape Coral food truck owners like her just got a whole lot harder to navigate now that a city ordinance says they can no longer stay in one location.
My sister and I, we did all the legwork and we built this. And now we have to move it.
Named after their mother, Manuela and her sister have owned and operated Millie's Dominican food truck at this exact spot of Del Prado in the Cape for the past 2 years. But now what business owners feel is a laundry list of new demands from a mobile food vendor ordinance means they now have to move their truck at the end of each shift and get rid of all of the tables and chairs from their location.
We're not in anybody's way. Our neighbors love us. All our neighbors around us, they eat here all the time. So we weren't really bothering anyone. So I don't see why this new ordinance had to come about.
But instead of giving up, Manuela said they've decided to give back, buying a truck so they can move at the end of each night and are looking for a new home for their blue tables.
We do want to find like an organization or a church or some youth program, anybody who I know that could use them.
It's a way, Manuela says, to give thanks to the community that supports them. She says it's because of their customers that these roadblocks won't be stopping them.
We love our customers. We've built great relationships with them. We're not gonna stop. Just because we got a roadblock, we're just gonna pivot and we're gonna keep going.
And one other thing I found interesting during tonight's report is in this shopping area where Millie's is located, other businesses telling me they love the business that the food trucks bring. They say not only do they benefit from them, but they really just benefit from each other. And when I talked with Manuela, I go, so what's the next step? She tells me despite having to move each night, they're going to continue to hold down this location as long as they can. Of course, we'll keep you updated as this story continues to move forward. Live in Cape Coral tonight, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
All right, Colton, thank you for that story. Well, also, Charlotte County deputies today say they are looking for 2 thieves seen here and caught on camera. They say these 2 actually stole a grill from an Inglewood business. I know it might be hard to see, but it's on the right side of your screen here. They also say they took off in a white Chevy truck with black rims. So deputies still do not have a suspect in custody tonight. If by any chance you might recognize these dark figures on your screen here or might know anything about this crime that could help make an arrest, call 941-639-2101.
Florida Fish and Wildlife confirms to Fox 4 an alligator bit someone on Sanibel. This happened yesterday, and FWC says crews did trap the alligator. Emergency crews rushed to a pond off of Rabbit Road. Investigators say the person walked away from the alligator bite with minor injuries. A police report says the person was hanging his feet in the water while clearing debris when he felt a bite. FWC again says it trapped the alligator, but this is the third alligator bite on Sanibel Island that Fox 4 has reported on since Hurricane Ian.
Well, some of you in Punta Gorda might look out at your lawn and say, why is my trash still here? Well, the city says staffing issues today prevented trash pickup. So if today is your normal trash pickup day on Tuesday in Punta Gorda, crews say your trash will now be picked up on Thursday. Well, over 100 protesters were in the state's capital today.
And their push against laws that they insist target their entire community.
The laws have been passed, but we're going to let them know that we're not going to take it laying down.
After the break, we'll hear more reaction from LGBTQ plus protesters who say they plan to challenge these bills in court soon. And the record rain is done coming down in Fort Lauderdale, but now farmers are trying to recover what they can from those crops from all that wet weather. We'll take a look at how it's also going to impact the price you pay later on.
And speaking of wet weather, we are tracking some heavy storms right here for inland glades. From Palmdale to Lakeport, Moorhaven, and Clewiston, you are next. We'll track where this storm is headed and why we're expecting an active weather pattern to stick around this week.
Well, our state capitol has seen a lot of marches this legislative session. Civil rights leaders, gun control advocates, and this might have probably been the first. Drag queens, dozens of them, maybe the largest gathering of its kind in Florida history, and they are all there for a mission. About 200 drag queens and LGBTQ plus advocates flooded the streets of Tallahassee this afternoon.
As they march to the Capitol protesting that wave of legislation that they do consider hateful, transphobic, as well as censorship, Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders takes a look.
Drag is not a crime! Hundreds from across the state marched in boots, sneakers, and heels Tuesday.
I am somebody! Somebody!
Many feel the state legislature is trying to censor their livelihood and lives.
We won't be erased. We understand that the laws have been passed, but we're going to let them know that we're not going to take your land down.
The legislation, they fear, includes bills limiting public bathrooms to biological sex, bans on gender dysphoria treatments for minors.
Drag is not a crime.
And a policy already headed to the governor, threatening fines and jail time to those admitting kids to generally defined adult live performances. Many here seeing it as an attempt to chill drag shows.
Things are not going the way the world needs them to go. We're all here to have a good time and show love, not hate.
The GOP majority pushing the measures this year, many saying their goal is not to censor, but to protect children.
I was motivated by what happened in my own community.
Rep. Randy Fine is carrying the House version of the adult performances bill.
The city sponsored an event to put adult entertainers in the middle of the street, and parents walking by had adult sex toys waved in the faces of their kids. That's not okay.
All three of the policies likely to get the governor's signature this session, making them law.
This is what democracy looks like.
Protesters not dismayed, they say. Their focus already turning to the ballot box in 2024.
We're taking people to the polls because that's the only way things will change. We want to see you in that hallowed hall up there, not the people who are voting against us.
Time will tell what happens next.
Drag is not a crime.
As this march marches on. At the Capitol, I'm Forrest Saunders, Fox 4.
Meanwhile, the controversial college course that caught the attention not only of the nation, but also Ron DeSantis and other Florida lawmakers is now getting updated. The College Board announced today its AP African American History class will be subject to a few changes here. Now, it's not clear what the changes are, but the course was under scrutiny earlier this year when Governor Ron DeSantis said it pushed a political agenda, as Black Lives Matter, slavery reparations, or even the Black queer movement were all removed after receiving the pressure from state lawmakers. So again, not clear what the changes are, but the board does say, does not talk about what topics or if any will be added back into this class. It is currently being taught in about 60 schools in the U.S. and will expand to more than 800 schools this year.
As we're also taking a look for the outside, it's been a wonderful day. Even this morning, caught a few cool breezes out there. I know we had that heat pushing 90 in Fort Myers, but at least for this morning, though, kind of warmed up to it slowly, which felt great.
And there's not a cloud in sight. That usually indicates it's dry, and that's when certified meteorologist Katie Walls tells us that there's big swings that we feel, which is what we're feeling today.
That's right. So for right now, quiet conditions along the coastline. If you're in Charlotte, Lee, Collier County, this is what we're enjoying. Just crisp blue skies outside right now. But take a look at these temperatures. We're at 84 degrees, and look how muggy the air is. That dew point measure of moisture in the air in the upper 60s. So that's causing it to feel even hotter. Right now, we have that heat index of 87 degrees. So the soupier the air, the higher the dew point, and the worse the heat index. So even this hour, even as we step closer to 7 o'clock, it's still feeling more like 87. And then we have those winds at least helping to cool us down along the coast out of the west at 16 miles per hour. It's also because of that westward wind that we're seeing the storms inland as opposed to the coastline. Temperatures today, we started off at 70 this morning. Afternoon highs right on target for this time of year. So we hit a high of 87 degrees as forecast, but again with those higher dew points, we started off on the muggier side, and tomorrow will be similar. So with those westward winds, right now we do have those storms currently rolling through Glades and Hendry. Same spots that got hit yesterday are the same spots today, and they'll be the same spots again tomorrow. So that's really where the concentration of our storm development has been over the last couple of days. From Buckhead Ridge, traveling down 78, Palmdale, you're now out of it, but look at these storms. At least they are weakening as they head toward Moorhaven. Meanwhile, right here over Montura, you were hit hard yesterday, and now you're about to get hit hard again. Heavy rainfall, no lightning just yet. There will be soon, though, because this particular thunderstorm is building, it is intensifying, and eventually that's going to be working its way toward Clewiston. So Clewiston, just remember, if you can hear that thunder, you want to make sure you head inside immediately. For the rest of us, quiet conditions, especially along the coastline. Sunshine, then partly cloudy skies expected this evening. Temperatures eventually dropping into the 70s once that sun sets. Looking at your hour-by-hour outlook right here at 7 p.m., keeping the concentration of those showers and storms inland. Same story at 8 o'clock. Then the sun sets and we'll see that intensity diminish dramatically. Overnight tonight, clear skies are expected. Your Wednesday morning is going to be another humid start, right around 70 degrees, and lots of sunshine on the way will quickly warm things up. So as we look ahead to your Wednesday afternoon with that flow out of the southwest, that again will keep the opportunity for those scattered showers and storms farther inland. So the same locations that we've been tracking those storms each and every afternoon, those will be the same spots hit tomorrow. But if you live on this side of 75, closer to the coast, that's where dry conditions are expected. So notice right here, same time as right now, Glades and Hendry, that's where the concentration of those storms will be. 89 degrees is where we're headed. It's going to be another hot one. Again, factor in that humidity. It's going to be feeling more like the low to mid 90s. And then over the weekend, we'll have a cold front come through. So scattered storms on tap both Saturday and Sunday. Then that front comes through early on Monday.
We have this policy and that's it.
And that's why the Lee County School District says it's having a difficult time figuring out how to implement the guardianship program. As we're live in Lee County with a full report coming up. Covering Florida tonight, an Instacart driver says someone shot at her car multiple times in Davie after she pulled into the wrong driveway. The driver says she and her boyfriend were out delivering groceries. Police say another car blocked in their car and someone fired. The homeowners say that they fired shots because they didn't know who was driving the car.
Also, state lawmakers still battling with Disney today, filing new amendments in Tallahassee for a bill that would give the state more power over transportation now on Disney property. And one of those amendments, you've seen it right here, targets the modern monorail system there, which does travel more than 15 miles on Disney property each day, making the monorails subject to state inspections. This despite the fact that the monorails are a unique form of transportation, unique only to Disney property. This amendment, though, has yet to be voted on. Well, his music is undeniable and his legacy even greater. Harry Belafonte, who entertained millions in a segregated America before becoming at the front of the civil rights movement, has died at the age of 96 of heart failure.
Born in 1927 in New York City to Jamaican immigrants, Belafonte found stardom on the stage, the screen, television, also through song, of course. He also walked in key marches with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the 1960s, putting his own career at risk for some of his positions. Again, Harry Belafonte was 96. One of Florida's senators was in Collier County today talking about a program that he says he would like to implement nationally.
But now these school officials are still trying to find out the best ways to implement this idea. So after the break, Fox 4 has team coverage. We will tell you about the guardianship program, what it is, and why there are issues to getting it up and running.
I am Christopher Worrell, political prisoner 377183.
That's a voice of the man set to be before a judge, a federal judge, tomorrow for his role in assaulting an officer during the January 6 riots at the U.S. Capitol. A look at the charges he's facing after the break.
Senator Rick Scott addressing student safety in Collier County today. He was there to promote the school guardianship program. The Lee County School Board is looking into adopting the plan. We have team coverage tonight to get you all the information.
Plus, a Naples man accused of rioting at the nation's capital on January 6th will be in court tomorrow. This after numerous delays in the federal case.
Live from Southwest Florida, you're watching Fox 4 News at 6.
And thanks for staying with us here for Fox 4 News at 6 on this Tuesday. I'm Nadine Yanis.
I'm Chris Earl. Senator Rick Scott in Southwest Florida today.
To make sure this never happens to anybody else's family.
And his objective, an ambitious one, and one top of mind for many parents tonight. The senator at Collier County saying that he would like to see the Guardian program implemented nationwide. It's surrounded by Parkland families. Senator Scott says the program, which allows hiring armed guards in place of law enforcement or school resource officers, should be federal law.
And this is something we've seen play out right here in Lee County. A lot of parents have been passionate about this. So we have team coverage tonight, starting with Fox 4's Alexandra Rangel, helping us understand Rick Scott's plan here.
But I wear him on my chest every day.
Tom and Gina Hoyer lost their youngest son in the Parkland Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting in 2018.
You have to give the teachers and the students a chance.
He was one of the 17 people killed in one of the worst mass school shootings in U.S. history. Now, 5 years later, I stand with Parkland, a group of parents and spouses who say they stand with both Republicans and Democrats. In advocating against gun violence is standing with Senator Rick Scott from near his hometown in Collier County.
Trying to do things to make sure this never happens to anybody else's family.
The senator says he wants to see the School Guardian Act legislation passed nationwide. The Florida law adopted after the Parkland shooting allows school employees who are not primarily in the classroom to carry a gun on campus.
Make sure that law enforcement is there. Make sure that there's few entrances. Make sure that there's every security. Make sure that the teachers and the students know what to do if there's an active shooter.
Scott focused on his message: every school in America should have an armed guardian or resource officer on campus. The senator did not talk about critics who in the past have said the program's success is not able to be tracked well. But Sarasota School Board member Bridget Ziegler says resource officers have been instrumental in deterring gun violence.
But at the end of the day, it does make a pivotal aspect of that, the fact that you have an armed law enforcement officer there.
Collier County Sheriff Kevin Rambusk
do not have the resources that our governor and our state gave us.
Says he wants to see more national funding for a program his county has not adopted, but has an armed sheriff's resource officer on every school campus.
It's been 5 years now and still can't believe that he's gone.
Tom and Gina Hoyer say to help their child's memory live on, they think the program is a necessary step forward.
To hopefully, save a parent from not having to suffer what we suffer through every day.
Reporting in Collier County, Alexandra Rangel, Fox 4.
The senator's Collier County appearance comes as Lee County leaders are also in the midst of implementing how the Guardian program would work in that district.
And at times, board members and the superintendent disagreed on the next steps. So Fox 4's Brianna Brownlee now tells us live from district headquarters tonight that this is about who has the final say here, Bree.
That is correct, Nadine. When it comes to approving a policy that allows volunteer staff members to be armed in schools, it came with a laundry list of questions from the board, mainly because of the current language stating that the superintendent, which is now an elected position, will have the final say in the initial application process with no appeal.
We don't have a job description where we can put some guardrails in place.
Lee County School Board member Chris Patrica expressing her Guardian program concerns regarding draft language in the district policy, which will allow volunteer staff members in schools to be armed. The end-all decision, meaning who is selected in the initial application process.
Who would you at that point then?
That's a really good question. Who would I would think that I would want some law enforcement expertise involved in making the final decision.
I understand what you're saying, but the sheriff is also an elected official, so the same issue would come about. So, I mean, the resolution is then up to the voters.
Under Lee County's proposal, the Guardian policy allows volunteers who work in schools to go through more than 140 hours of training with LCSO to be armed during school hours. LCSO will oversee volunteers and play a major role in the selection process. However, the proposal gives the superintendent the final say in the initial application process with no way to appeal.
That individual who will be duly elected is still in charge of the operational issues of the school district.
The district superintendent, Christopher Bernier, says even though the superintendent is elected, he still feels the person who has the job should make the final decision, clarifying that this is mostly about the process of denial when it comes to the no appeal. However, some board members feel there should be more guardrails.
We have this policy and that's it. So it feels like free reign, not knowing who's going to be sitting in the seat that you occupy right now.
Now, this was the first reading, and of course, Fox 4 will continue to track this and bring you updates as we learn more. Live from Lee County, Brianna Brownlee, Fox 4.
All right, Bree, thank you for that. Also, a man arrested for looting from a business during Hurricane Ian will be spending the next 6 years in prison. Investigators say Marcos de la Cruz tried to steal money from a gas station on September 28th, the day Hurricane Ian hit Southwest Florida. Video actually captured de la Cruz breaking into the store and stealing items. He will also face 4 years of probation after his 6 years sentence and will be listed as a habitual felony offender.
More than 2 years after the attack on the U.S. Capitol and several delays, a Naples man tied to an extremist group will finally stand trial tomorrow. Christopher Worrell's trial has been vacated at least twice because of his cancer treatment. Prosecutors say the Naples man is part of the Proud Boys, a group charged with much of the violence on that day, January 6, 2021. Worrell is charged with assaulting officers with bear spray. He has pled not guilty. The DeSoto County Sheriff's Office says the major crash that held up drivers for a long time is cleared, and it also happened because multiple semi-trucks got tied up. It happened off of Northwest Mizell Avenue by State Road 70 west of Arcadia. One semi turned over in a ditch, causing a chain reaction that also impacted 2 other semi-trucks and a long line of vehicles waiting to move past the crash, but deputies report no injuries.
Well, the final 2 candidates for Collier County School Board will be getting interviewed during a special meeting tomorrow. So tomorrow at 8, Interim Superintendent Leslie Riccadelli, a finalist, and Charles Van Zant on the right will face another round of questions from district staff. Now, the district will be live streaming this meeting for anyone who wants to watch the interview process live. The Charlotte County School Board will interview its remaining candidates for the position next week on Thursday, and there'll also be a meet and greet with those candidates after their interviews, 6:30 to 8 o'clock.
Cape Coral City leaders have a big issue to talk over at tomorrow's Committee of the Whole meeting, water and not wasting the water. According to Cape Coral presentation documents, water resources are being used inefficiently. So the city wants to implement new watering systems that will make the most of the water the city of Cape Coral has and will not waste it. Those irrigation modifications could also cost people more money. We're working to learn the true costs, which will be after tomorrow's meeting. Deputies in Pasco County announced more details from a horrific murder case today.
Yeah, and the details aren't just horrific here, but the detectives are calling this a demonic attack. So after the break, the details from the investigation so far, including what deputies found at the crime scene.
There's nothing easy about farming.
Also, from Hurricane Ian to citrus greening and now record rainfall, farmers in Florida have really been dealt a rough hand. So after the break, we are actually showing you how record rain is actually making farming an even harder job, which is hard to imagine, Katie.
That's right. For some of us, we still need that rainfall. We'll start off tomorrow quietly, then for the afternoon, isolated to scattered storms, and that potential will continue into the evening. We'll break down which neighborhoods have the best potential of receiving some rainfall next.
Charlotte County Honor Guard deputies in Tallahassee today to honor the lives of deputies who died on the job. The sheriff's office says 3 of its deputies are also on the wall, including Deputy First Class Christopher Taylor, who died in November after investigators say a drunk driver hit him while he was in the midst of a traffic stop on I-75. The Pasco County Sheriff's Office held a news conference today to let people know about the killing of an Uber Eats driver.
Yeah, and this murder has been called demonic and horrific by Pasco County deputies, and it's not something we hear every day. The investigation into this murder began last week when deputies say the victim was making deliveries for Uber Eats. Now, the driver stopped communicating with his wife around 7 o'clock. She got nervous and called 911. Detectives were able to trace the driver's location to a home in Holiday, Florida, and they were sent to the home multiple times. Eventually, detectives found the victim's body there in multiple different trash bags at the home. Now, not many more details were being released, but detectives are still investigating, again, what they call a demonic murder, Chris.
The severe flooding we saw in Fort Lauderdale, along with the drought facing several parts of our country now affecting farmers in the Treasure Coast.
Yeah, they say the erratic weather has caused food supply shortages in parts of the country and is even putting a strain on farmers all across our state to make up for it. So tonight, Kate Husey from our Scripps partners in West Palm Beach, WPTV, is actually taking a look at this issue.
And how that record rain mixed with a long list of other serious weather events are hurting ag all across Florida.
Here at Quarter Ranch and the farm in Indiantown, rancher Greg Flewelling says he's faced obstacle after obstacle raising his cattle and other animals. First inflation, then the worst drought he's ever seen. Now flooding down south and erratic weather on the west coast causing even more problems. Pigs at his feet.
They give you a lot of joy.
And cowboy hat on his head.
You're riding a horse, you put your head down, keeps the rain off your head.
Greg Flewelling.
Felt hat in the winter and a straw one in the summer, you know.
Clearly a rancher to the core.
My uncle was, and my dad was also, so it's kind of a long line of the meat business.
But as he walks us around the painted Quarter Ranch in Indiantown.
These used to be beautiful. This was all weather impact, killed all these back. No rain, water.
It's also clear his livelihood is drying up.
Well, look at this. I mean, this is dust.
The rain that does pour.
I mean, I couldn't even walk without seeing dust come up everywhere.
Only hurting, not helping.
State of emergency is still in effect in Broward.
Take a look at this video, though. Someone had to be pulled out of their car.
Greg says the more than 2 feet of flooding in parts of Broward County disrupted production for farmers to the south. Combine that with a severe drought out west, demand for his product has skyrocketed.
Very much so, yes.
That demand in the supply chain only expected to increase inflation. Keeping up, incredibly difficult.
You know, things that really affect you don't really think about. It's like it takes over 1,000 bags to package a cow when you butcher it. And bags were always readily available. They've gone up almost $300-400 to buy them for one animal.
The rise in costs facing every product he buys across the board. Greg losing 30 to 40% of his revenue.
We've absorbed so far all the prices.
Without any real break from the worst drought he's ever seen.
What you want is a slower, consistent rain.
A lack of rain, a lack of food and grass for his cattle, who now pay the price.
They're probably 200 pounds light, 150 to 200 pounds light right now.
Still, he keeps his hat on and his chin held high.
I mean, you have to love it. There's nothing easy about farming.
Taking each obstacle in stride, one step at a time.
So when you can't control the weather or rain, I mean, you have to control what you can.
We have a lot of farmers here in Southwest Florida as well. So Greg says what has helped keep him afloat through all of this is really the support from the community, from both purchases from farmers markets that have helped financially, and of course the positive feedback from his customers. He says that's how he's getting it through.
And at least some of the good news has been coming, depending again where you are. I've seen in Glades County today with some of the storms also pushing through, as long as it's that consistent rain. But again, a wonderful sunset as we see here in Bokeelia.
I mean, for the last 2 days, it's been absolutely gorgeous on the coast, but further inland, they've had that rain. As we bring in certified meteorologist Katie Walls, rain always welcome, though, because we are still trying to kick a drought here.
That's right. We do still have severe drought conditions here across Southwest Florida, but we're talking about the juxtaposition of just 100 or so miles away, Southeast Florida. And you can see right here, we're not in any sort of drought from parts of Miami-Dade into Broward. So it really just goes to show. Meanwhile, you head up toward Pinellas, you head up toward the Tampa area, and we are dealing with extremely dry conditions, even drier than here. We've actually seen some relief here in the last couple of weeks because of recent rainfall. Nonetheless, you see still a lot of orange. severe drought conditions continue. We still need that rainfall. Now, I do want to point out farther inland, Hendry into Glades, where we've seen the concentration of those showers and storms develop the last couple of days. Those areas have dropped a degree in drought, so they are still in moderate drought. However, so it still goes to show we haven't caught up just yet. We're in deficit by anywhere from 2 to 5 inches here on the southwest Florida coastline. And notice most of the storms this afternoon once again making their way from the west toward the east. So if you are in some of our interior communities back toward Lake Okeechobee, that's where we're going to be dealing with the concentration of storms this evening. Along the coastline, though, from the Cape Hayes Peninsula to Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Naples, Marco Island, beautiful conditions to get outside and enjoy this evening. But we have been keeping a close eye on the storms here in Glades. Big improvements now in Lakeport. You are out of that storm. Clewiston, though, this is heading your direction, so you're going to be dealing with this likely for at least the next half hour. Heavy rainfall, frequent lightning as this section of the thunderstorm moves off toward the east and heads over the southern part of Lake Okeechobee. We'll continue to see the concentration of those showers and storms in Glades and Hendry for the next hour or so. Then after sunset, those storms lose their energy. Overnight tonight, mostly clear skies are forecast. So we're going to be kicking off your Wednesday morning. Lots of sunshine. It'll be another muggy start heading into the afternoon after 2 p.m. Those storms once again firing up to the east of I-75. So DeSoto, inland Charlotte, inland Lee, inland Collier, back toward Hendry and Glades. That's where we have the best chance of picking up a little bit of something in the rain gauge. And right here around 6:30, about this time tomorrow night, we'll be tracking those storms, especially in Hendry and Glades. Same spots that got hit this time yesterday, today will be the same spots that get hit this time tomorrow as well. And then for your Wednesday night, conditions quiet down. And Thursday, we're going to do it all over again. Quiet start with developing showers and storms for the afternoon, primarily in our interior communities. Temperatures will continue to stay hot and muggy. We'll push close to 90 degrees, around 89 or so in Lehigh Acres, Cape Coral, and Fort Myers. Upper 80s expected across Charlotte County. Meanwhile, low to mid 90s expected farther inland. 7-day forecast showing off the chance for isolated storms the next couple of days, mainly in our inland communities. Then over the weekend, scattered storms return to the forecast for all of us as a cold front moves closer.
One family from the Tampa area recently was able to move into the Habitat for Humanity home for the first time. It's all set for them, but once they moved in, they struggled to finish it.
Yeah, and that is where a new charity that brings new beds to homes that need it. So Eric Waxler from our partner station WFTX in the Tampa area shows us how Sleep in Heavenly Peace is making homes feel more like homes.
Taught them to do it. Yeah. Maria Martinez says her kids are loving their new beds.
Yeah, they look great. I mean, I was amazed. Surprised.
New beds for all 6 children.
It came with the mattress, it came with the blankets, with the pillows, and with the teddy bear, too.
The family just moved into a new home built by Habitat for Humanity. But with that came the need for furniture. That's where Ann Baker stepped up. She and her husband started a nonprofit called Sleep in Heavenly Peace 5 years ago because they realized so many kids don't have beds.
They told me they slept in pallets, and it took me a while to figure that out. And that is actually just stacks of blankets. Sometimes it's just a mattress on the floor.
They partner with different groups who donate money and build the beds. Then those beds are delivered to kids in need all around Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco counties.
I love building. It's fun. But seeing these kids' faces, it's just, you know, they give you hugs. Sometimes they got tears.
The Junior League of Clearwater Dunedin did the latest build and churned out 27 beds in a matter of hours.
Building the beds is super easy. You're out there with a sander. Sleep in Heavenly Peace will train you and show you exactly how to build a bed within about 15 minutes. It's a great relief for us, for my husband and I to, you know, be able to find people that help us.
$5,000 builds about 20 beds. Sleep in Heavenly Peace has given out 2,800 beds in 5 years and has no plans to stop.
Don't know if there'll ever be everybody in Tampa Bay that will have beds, but we will try.
Also, one group of veterans is back in the ground after cruising the high altitudes over Southwest Florida.
Yeah, so these veterans all live at the Shell Point community, and they went up in Dream Flights today in a retro biplane. So earlier today, the Dream Flights, it is a nonprofit, and it honors seniors and military veterans. It took 25 veterans on honor flights today. They range in ages from 78 to 95, and boy, do they have the bravery here, and they all got to go up on this flight. Take a listen.
Yesterday, I was walking my morning walk, and I looked up, and it was about 8:40 in the morning, and I looked up and said, that's me, tomorrow, exact same time, flying across, and it was wonderful.
In the Korean War, Vietnam, and Gulf Wars. Thanks for joining us on Fox 4 News at 6. We'll see you at 10.
This was a very challenging case.
Now we're finding out part of the challenge that officers had to overcome. They eventually arrested the man accused of attacking a Chabad center in Cape Coral and are letting us know about a wild conspiracy theory the suspect had about marijuana.
And food trucks in Cape Coral have a long list of new rules they must follow. Now one of those trucks is using it as a chance to do some good for our community. We'll show you how they're doing just that. And one of Florida's senators was in Collier County for a big announcement today, all intended to make students feel safer in schools.
But will it be enough? Lee County School Board members are reviewing the details of that plan now as we have a preview.
Live from Southwest Florida, you're watching Fox 4 News at 6.
Conspiracy theories involving religion leading to an attack on a place of worship. Tonight, new details on that hate crime arrest and the attack of the Cape Coral Chabad Jewish Center. Thank you for joining us for Fox 4 News at 6. I'm Nadine Yanis.
I'm Chris Earl. New tonight, the Cape Coral man charged in that hate crime was trespassed at another place of worship just days later.
Now, last month, Cape police say Marin Raymond targeted the Cape Coral Chabad Center because he says he worked for the CIA.
And not only that, he claims that his attack was spurred on by a conspiracy theory. Fox 4 Investigates Ryan Kruger tells us this had to do with Jewish people and marijuana. Ryan.
Yeah, 51-year-old Marin Mark Raymond told Cape Coral police officers he believed that Jewish people were part of a conspiracy with the U.S. government. That is where the whole investigation started, but it took several weeks, along with a unique approach by detectives, to arrest him for attacking the Cape Coral Jewish Center as Saturday services were ending early last month.
He's just picking up the stones and just throwing it at the door.
6 days after the man Cape Coral police say attacked the Chabad